stage, Nguyen Dinh with the
3, 2, 1, throw!
This one's weird. This one's weird, okay. The sun tends to welcome the day with these thick, uneven brushstrokes of a shimmer along the riverbed, where somehow the exhale of fog from a jogger's breath descends and balances itself just above the water's reach. At night, the air was bold with these symptoms of forgiving. This would be my last visit back home for many, many more months, and with the rise of my early flight, I lost the need to be cautious. A few hours ago, I was in the arms of an affair, and she lied still through the commotion as I left her alone in a bed, relaxed and pawing at some deeper sleep. The floor was cool, and my spine shifted when it sounded uneasy. Her room felt much smaller than I remember, lined with these new witnesses and memoirs, and I assume these little changes now line the inside of her thoughts. I returned to where our clothes pooled back in the living room floor, still soaking in the flickering television light. Earlier, we danced through the hallways and near windows, and I got cold, and I whispered, and she acted young and merciful. The thought of our bodies tumbling there, loose and careful, began to reverberate in the marrow of my bones. From the sterile highs of a concrete tower window or towards some distilled crosswalk waiting to change, I know these images will slowly drip into my fingertips one day. On Sundays, I worked opening shifts downtown and read acid inside of dusty textbooks, and some noons she would bring me lunch in a tiny stretch of tinfoil covering soggy toast and pretty eggs. At night, on a pile of caffeine, we would tell stories and soak in mounds of pillows and her aunt's quilts, and watch some movie we'd thread little opinions of. We were a sweet collision. A friend of a friend in a balcony and a call on a Tuesday. Her mother taught doctors and grew berries, and her father sold books and loved clocks. When she was young, she made them worry about staircases and fish. They liked to tell. She was always closer to her brother. I never got to meet the man who would marry her cousin, but she says their wedding was gorgeous, and everyone took bids on who the real winners and losers were. When I was away, a bitter friend told me that she sometimes wore my ring on a chain that rests in the cove of her collarbone. I walked through old rooms dusted with her perfume and cannibalized my thoughts on new photographs, glossed and fed from different times. They covered fridges and tables, and she crossed lines with people I thought she'd never meet. The scenes where I was simply absent from a life more complex precipitated itself to replace me. But when I crawled through this little old cemetery, all I really thought about, like some escapable perversion, was how, after all this time, her eyes could still manage to settle. How they became mute and still when, last night, chance left us alone. And as a poor causality of our wars, she said she couldn't exchange promises like she used to. I wanted to apologize for the sorry ache and the profound intention that must have misaligned the gears of our lives. The morning came quiet through her bedroom window, when my pulse was in my throat and I kissed her shoulder, and I moved the tear from the crease by her closed eyes. Then I imagined as my hands gripped the door handle, turned to soften the grinding of the spring and mechanism. I imagined as I slowly met the old oak door to its frame with the bristles of my fingertips. I imagined that I felt the tug of the door on the other side, and I let my arms fall, and I let my lungs quiver, and hold her presence, and I'll tell her that I'm done, and she'll tell me that she waited.